City of Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission meeting, recorded January 12, 2021.
Well, I guess we could start the fundamentals. I'll call the meeting to order. Our special meeting for January 12th. Leanne, would you please call the roll and indicate that Commissioner Kirschling will be joining us momentarily, please.
Carlson?
I'm here.
Moore?
Here.
Ostrowski?
Present as usual.
Westcott?
Present. All right. Item
On
number
behalf
2.
of Joe Kirschling, he is just coming in now.
All right. Please indicate that Commissioner Kirschling has joined us. Good morning, Joseph.
Morning, sir.
Item 2 is discussion with possible action, authorization to hire 2 police officers, members of the Police and Fire Commission. You have memorandums from the chief concerning these individuals. Tom, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
All right, thank you. The first officer that we'll bring forward is Cole Lawrence O'Neill. Cole is a 22-year-old from Wisconsin Rapids, lived in central Wisconsin his entire life. He received an associate's degree through the criminal justice program at Midstate and graduated with a 3.957 average, GPA, I should say. He has some experience working part-time for the Wood County Sheriff's Office, and he also interned at Portage County, and I received personal accommodations from staff at Portage County during his internship. He did an outstanding job, and quite frankly, all of his references and others that we uncovered through our background investigation had very high praise for Cole. Most of the comments made referenced his setting goals for himself, very mature beyond his age, and just high standards. All overall great character. And sorry, I'm letting people in on the waiting room on the back end here, so I'm not much of a multitasker.
No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
But that would be Cole, and he would be the first candidate for the opening from a retired officer, Pat Stanislavski.
All right, so Cole, if approved by the commission, would join us when?
We would be looking at probably continuing the process that we have right now of mid-February.
Okay.
I don't know if we're going to be able to expedite that. We still obviously, with the conditional offer, if we choose to go that direction, we need to do background investigations, physical agility. Some of these have its challenges due to COVID protocols that are in place. So it does delay our ability. And then also simply getting uniforms become a challenge now during these COVID times, where normally we could get an officer outfitted in a couple weeks. Many of these factories are back ordered, so we may need up to that month to actually get him on board. And that's just the landscape that we're in right now. So
the recommendation from the management team is to have the commission authorize that Cole be hired as a police officer pending the satisfactory completion of the remaining hiring protocols. Is that kind of where we're? All right. Other questions for Chief Center, commissioners?
No.
Chief, roughly when they do an internship, how long is that usually done? I mean, how many months or?
That could span, normally I'd say that's a 40-hour internship, but we've had them at the police department even up to 120 hours. I didn't verify through the packet. I know our background investigators would have done that, but I did not have that on my cheat sheet.
And what spot is he being put in for? I mean, are we losing one right now?
We have a vacancy actually right now created by Pat Stanislavski's retirement. Actually, in November, he retired. So that opening currently exists, and that one would go to the first candidate of Cole O'Neill.
Thank you.
I am prepared to make a motion. If Jerry, Joseph, any questions? No? All right, I'll move that we extend an conditional employment offer to Cole pending the satisfactory completion of the hiring protocols and his date of hire to be determined by Chief Center and his management team. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Carlson. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you. Chief Center, you have the floor for Josh.
Okay, we do have, and I've actually received a letter from Officer Dana Kurkowski, who intends to retire February 16th. He actually threw a dart at the dartboard apparently, and that's how he came up with that date. That's at least what he told me. So no, nothing specific on that particular date. It's his time to go. So that position, and now that we have received a letter, we have advised Josh that we would be recommending him to the Police and Fire Commission. Josh McCluth grew up in northern Minnesota. His wife, he is married. His wife is from Anago, which brings him to this location, central Wisconsin. He does have a business degree from Rasmussen College, and he has an extensive career in sales. He has always been interested in law enforcement, and even his sales positions involved companies such as Strikers and First Tactical, which sell equipment through police departments, which actually I was unaware of, but he came to the police department. I've spoken to him in the past, and I believe that was through Strikers. He currently has a job at Century where he's also in sales. He has a house in Mosinee. His wife works up in the Wausau and Plover area as an athletic trainer. So he has connections to this area and wishes to raise a family in the Stevens Point, central Wisconsin area. So he just finished the academy through North Central Tech, had 2 accommodations he received while in the academy, one staying late to help another candidate with his physical fitness testing, and also for bringing questionable behavior of a fellow student up to the instructors. Mr. Feeney, who is the head of the academy, had high praise for him and would definitely hire Josh. So we had several character references speak very highly of Josh, and he would be recommended to the Police and Fire Commission for the second position that we have open.
All right, and I presume Josh still has some hiring protocols to clear if we approve his application?
That would be the same protocols that Cole has.
Okay.
So we'd be looking, putting him online, what, 1st of March?
We would actually, both of them, obviously pending the completion of the following steps, and there's no hiccups within that process. And we always give our candidates, our future hires, 2 weeks to let their soon-to-be former employees know that they'd be leaving. We would hope both would start at the same time.
Okay, so it'd be in February also.
Right. Just even though that position would not be open February 16th, and we did this actually once previously, I believe that would have been Officer Kratzky when he retired. Based on the time frame that we have had where officers have vacated position, we'd have enough money within the budget to actually start Josh before Officer Kurkowski retired, which is a unique opportunity. Definitely takes away from that. If we look at our field training process, that's 16 weeks times a week and a half to begin with. We're looking at about 18 weeks from the moment that we hire. The officer starts at the police department before they'd actually count as manpower and be able to perform officer duties on their own. So the quicker we can get a person in, and if we can get somebody in a couple weeks before the officer even retires, that's an extra benefit that we get to hopefully get that officer on the road by themselves.
That makes total sense.
Are there other questions? Jerry, Ron, Joseph?
No, I'm good.
All All right, I'll entertain a motion to extend a offer of employment to Josh. And I will so make
I'll
that
second
motion with the appropriate
I'll
hiring
second, Kirschling
protocols.
second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries. Thank you. And then we're going to move to the third memorandum from Lieutenant Brooks concerning Morgan. Chief?
Let me make sure I have my paperwork in front of me. Okay. Morgan, now this is something we have not done in the recent past, basically due to the basically getting candidates. We don't get the number of candidates that we've received previously. And when we have put individuals on an eligibility list, it's been more of a futile effort because they get hired fairly quick. So we've kind of walked away from establishing an eligibility list. However, with this particular individual, qualified candidate, has indicated that a strong desire to stay in the Stevens Point area. And Morgan Gruna, who's a 22-year-old, is also currently employed at our police department. She's our parking enforcement part-time and also on our auxiliary list. Morgan recently graduated with an associate's degree in forensic science from Fox Valley with a 3.492 grade point average. And as I said, she's part-time, works at the police department for our parking. She's also employed through Innovative Services and has an extensive background dealing with mental health, which obviously with law enforcement, a huge asset. She just went through the academy in Wisconsin Rapids, and we look forward to potentially hiring her in the future. The request would be to have Morgan on a 6-month eligibility list. And that's in the event that we have any unforeseen retirements or resignations within that time frame. And obviously, as we all know, we're going through a chief's hiring process. I'm not going to go a year, simply not to tie that in to if we have a chief come in that wishes to go through a process on their own.
Tom,
So
do we have anybody else on the eligibility list?
No, that would be it.
We have one person on the eligibility list?
Yes.
And, oh, I've never, Gary, we've never gone through this just to place somebody on an eligibility list, have we?
Well, we do it in fire all the time, as you know, Ron, remember.
Yeah.
My recollection is we have in the past had eligibility lists from some police chiefs. It started to, and I'm going to ask Ron and Tom to kind of help me expand on this, and Leanne. It seems to me that that became kind of a academic point at some point in the recent past, as fewer folks were applying for police officer positions. And as Chief Zenner said, the, half a dozen to a dozen that, are qualified, if they don't receive a position, they get another position somewhere in the state pretty quickly. I think, Ron, during your police days, when I was in the mayor's office, I think some of the chiefs did maintain eligibility lists, but you're challenging my memory here. Tom, can you help at all there? Leanne, you're probably better at all.
I don't have a problem with maintaining an eligibility list. I'm just wondering, are we making the decision already now to hire her with nobody else? Or if somebody else comes on the eligibility list, how do we differentiate between the two? What if Superman applies and wants to be on the eligibility list? Have we committed now to this individual already?
Tom, yeah, go ahead. I was going to answer that too, but go ahead, Tom.
If we follow the Police and Fire Commission and how it's identified, if we establish an eligibility list, that needs to be approved by the Police and Fire Commission. to establish a police an eligibility list, not to hire the individual. If you follow the letter of how it is written, hence the reason why it's been brought forward to the PFC.
Okay, all right.
Tom, would you spend, since we have a minute here, and Ron, perhaps you can expand on this too, but let's talk about the hiring environment today versus maybe where it was 5 or 10 years ago. I remember a time where if we had an officer post position, we'd receive over 100 applicants.
Well, I can go back to when I was hired. It was 250 people that took a test at SPASH in the auditorium. The recent hires are processes that we went through, and I know Assistant Chief Cousseau, who actually took charge of this hiring process. It's not uncommon now, whether that number is different. The last one, we had 33 people. We don't even do a written test anymore at this point because of the costs associated with that. They apply, we just go right to the interview process just because we have a manageable number to do interviews. Again, that also plays into whether we establish an eligibility list or not. When you take away the interview, or not the interview, but the written test, a good chunk of money goes into budget money goes into doing that testing and having it proctored. We don't do that anymore. We obviously save money, and it's much easier to do interviews. Also, just because of the count, I don't want to take away, we get very qualified candidates that come in. What I would say is we don't get the number of qualified candidates we had in the past, where we could have 10 following a process whittled down to 10 individuals. Any of those 10 would make outstanding officers, and we would hire. Where now that might come in 2, 3, 4, and then you better be quick, because out of those 2, 3, 4, they're in several different processes within central Wisconsin. And we've noticed that actually in the past, where we've had our first or second pick before we finish the process, they're off to Marshfield or Wisconsin Rapids. So it's a very different landscape, very competitive. We also are dealing with that when more and more agencies have lateral transfers. So not only as a new hire, we're dealing with that, where in this case where we have Morgan on a 6-month eligibility list. Last year we lost, I know, 2 officers, actually 3. I forgot, we had another one that went to North Dakota. With lateral transfers, we're seeing more and more officers within our ranks leaving. So it's the hiring process is much different than it was 10 or even 5 years ago.
Thank you for that.
I don't think it's going to get better either.
No.
All right, thank you for that. Are there other questions for Tom? I'm comfortable making a motion to place Morgan on the requested eligibility list. Is there a second?
I will
Kirkland
second. I'll second that.
All right, Trusky seconds. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I want to, Tom, I love the reports on all 3 of the individuals. I thought that was a great summary and a job well done. I know Brian Brooks did, and who was the other one?
John.
And actually, who did these reports would have been the investigator that was assigned to do the background investigation on each one of that, and that would be Acting Lieutenant Brian Brooks, Acting Detective Sergeant John Larink, and again, Acting Lieutenant Brian Brooks.
Okay, I thought they all did a great job. I mean, John and Brian.
I'd also bring up, as you notice, I use acting and interim titles. So, and on these cases several times, we have a lot of officers that have stepped up to the plate while we've been going through this past year, and that'll be addressed in our upcoming annual report. Very proud to be associated with several of these officers that stepped up to the plate and taken roles above essentially their pay grade. They're their pay grade now, but just wanted to pass that on to the Police and Fire Commission.
Are they up for any Oscars?
Yeah, Emmys actually.
They're doing all the acting.
Yes, we have almost as many acting and interim positions as the university right now. So
yeah, we do.
Hey,
All right,
Tom,
with
when you're
that-
talking about, when
What
you're
was that?
talking about lateral changes, are you
Yes.
talking about they keep their rank and their vacation time, their salary? What all is it including now? Just so everybody.
Well, that's
Just
pretty much
very
it.
careful, Tom, just to note, that really isn't on the agenda. It's a fair question. Just briefly answer it for the commissioner, because
Okay, lateral
really don't have a dis-
transfers are essentially keeping several of your benefits that you're already in and not starting over. If you're a 5-year officer, you can transfer into a 5-year position and not from ground zero, so to speak.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, with that said, I'm going to move to adjourn into closed session pursuant to section 1985 1C and E of the Wisconsin State Statutes for the purpose of considering employment of any public employee over which the commission has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and conducting specified public business whenever competitive reasons require a closed session, including discussion and interviewing of candidates for the position of police chief. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Carlson. Leanne, would you be kind enough to please call the roll?
Carlson,
Yes.
Kirschling,
Yes.
Moore,
Yeah.
Ostrowski,
Yes.
Westcott.
Yes. Okay, Mayor, we have to say goodbye to you. Thank you for showing up here.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.